Hi, and welcome to the 100th episode of Keen Minds, where we cover NBC's The Blacklist. This is Season 7, Episode 16, Nyle Hatcher. I'm Jen, a.k.a. Takata Sayako.
And I'm Tessa, and I can't believe we made it to Episode 100.
Woo!
Yeah, I wish I had, sound effects.
I know.
Get myself sound effects.
We do have snoring dogs and meowing cats. Does that count?
Not the kind that I had in mind, but we do what we have to do. Anyway, what a terrific episode.
It was. It really was. So last week we commented on the fact that what seemed to fall short on it was that the Blacklister was just boring. Mm-hmm. That all he wanted was money and there was just nothing else to him. This is how you make an interesting Blacklister. And which was I was already interested in him when I thought that all he wanted was money. And I sat there looking at my television on Friday night going, this is how you do it. Take some notes. This is how. But on top of that, the writer took a Blacklister that was already fascinating and creepy as they come in all the best ways for the Blacklist, and then tied it in with some fantastic themes that have been running through since season 1, with adoption, stolen children,
women forced to have children or in ties or cajoled. This was a parallel fest, and at the same time she managed to integrate both lines that were working, and they were totally separated. They had nothing. There was not even a point of contact in there.
It was so nice. It was so well written. Katie something.
Brooks.
Okay.
It really, really very satisfying, very fast-paced, very appealing, because the Blacklister was at the same time incredibly creepy, and on the other hand, he had redeeming qualities. And redeeming to an extent.
Yeah.
At least he was in, because at first I thought, oh my God, Liz found a chest full of babies, of frozen babies. And I'm like, I was totally prepared for, oh my God, there's going to be a bunch of frozen babies in there. And no, it wasn't.
My mind did not go that far.
Oh, I was totally sure it was a chest full of frozen babies. And then it was this thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, there you go. You go.
It was interesting because I thought, when they brought him in and everything, and it started laying out what all had happened, it's like, okay, so he was doing it for the money. No, he didn't really want to kill the women. They were just loose ends. He was tying them up. It goes back to, we've seen countless characters in the Blacklist, the means to the end. These characters that are, not even morally ambiguous. They're just not good human beings. But which was interesting, because then they flipped it on its head, and he'd adopted all of these children, not through legal manners, of course, but
he kept all the children and gave them a nice, happy, normal life.
Yeah, and a loving father, and it sounded like he really didn't even use the money for himself. He set
it apart for the children.
And it's like, okay, and it's exactly like Ressler said. It would have been a lot more scary.
It's even scarier when you have a Blacklister that seem a nice, that have what exactly did you say? Because that is important, and I have it here.
Yeah, he said that it would have been easier if he had been a straight psychopath or something like that.
Yeah, it's far more scary when he's not a straight psychopath.
Exactly. And so he obviously, someone that works with dead bodies, they're already going to be a little odd anyway, so that's fine. And the fact that he was able to give those kids a normal-ish life, at least, that it's not like he had CPS knocking on his door every other day. He managed to pull it off so that he raised these kids, and some of them, like the teenage boy that was fixing lunch or whatever for one of his siblings.
Yeah, and the other older girl was reading books for them. Yeah, it seemed like a very nice, normal family. And so I think it brought that family theme, and then the horror that underlies the family things. And, the fact that he was like, you can't tell them. You cannot tell them what I did because you're going to destroy them. And why would you do that?
Well, and it was so interesting because I thought about that along those lines, as he's saying them, going, these kids are going back to their, hopefully going back to their biological families, but okay, like the baby, that's one thing, so the baby gets to go live with the grandmother. She's not going to have any memories of that.
Yeah, of what happened.
It's not going to be nearly as effective. But what about that, 15-year-old boy?
Yeah.
He's
old enough to understand.
Oh, so, very much. And so the idea that he's going to have to live with the man that he's called father his entire life was actually a murderer and killed
her mother.
One of his parents. Yeah.
Yeah, he killed his mother and took advantage of his dead father. But it's interesting how they managed to have taken. I always think that the Blacklist is like a prism, and you take an idea and you're going to start rotating it, and every time you do it you catch a different facet of things. And we have explored, we started very early with Floriana Campo that was exploiting the women and children for prostitution, and then we go into the Cyprus agency, and then there's these women who are being abducted. So we got, that's a lot creepier. They were being abducted and being used as wombs. Now we go into another Blacklister that is also doing the same basic idea, but this time instead of he's just using them as, just enticing them with money. They're going to get this money, and in order to get the baby. And the same thing happened in the Alter Ego, where the woman was just waiting to get pregnant in order to get the father's fortune and kill the guy. Remember that storyline in Alter Ego? They just made this plan to get the guy's father's money by one pretended to be the girlfriend and then the other one with a sister and the brother-in-law, and she got pregnant, and then she got her to beat her up a little bit, and the other guy was beating her up. That was part of the premise of the Alter Ego. And now we're getting into this one, which is basically greed and, taking advantage of somebody whose life is not easy and doesn't have the morals to say, you know what, I'm not interested in that.
Or even in a place, really, too. They, I don't remember the exact quote and I don't have it written down, but Ressler was talking about it when he said, well, people that nobody would miss. And Ressler's like, their families miss them. You've taken someone in a desperate place.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see Ressler get so angry about that. It was nice to see him. They sometimes paint him as
insensitive.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to have those little glimpses of him going, WTF, I don't care what they're, whether they're on the right side or the wrong side of the law. You took advantage of people who were in a desperate place. And
yeah. And you were stealing money and making, because it wasn't that there was no victims in the crime. The families had now to live with this, oh, my husband was unfaithful, my father, and when it was all a lie. So there was a lot of evilness, and at the same time, the guy was all the other ones, the Cyprus agency. It was hard to feel sad about him or to even understand what he was doing. So he was a troubled child, and the adoptive parents couldn't deal with him. So even the psychologist said he has to return to, you're not the proper parents. But this was so bizarre and so well done. But the fact that we're going in a prism and turning and looking at facets of the same exact circumstance of women having children for wrong reasons. And I went back and I started thinking, the way that I've been going over, Liz may have been lived as Masha Rostova, but I don't think that she was born as Masha Rostova. And I've been going back and looking at all these things. And remember when Red said that Liz's mother felt like it was a curse every day of her life. And then we got this blonde cat saying that she's tired of men controlling her life. And I'm getting this idea that somehow this woman got pregnant with Liz, and it was some sort of entrapment for Red. And that's why she didn't want the baby. She didn't want Liz. Liz's mother was a woman who brought her up.
Well, I mean, I think for me, the route I come with that, I don't see, as of right now with the information that we have, the mom that didn't want her before she was born and the mom that was willing to die for her after she was born is two different people. I think it's very similar to what we saw with was Angela? Was that the blonde's name that had the baby in this episode? Mm-hmm. Something along those lines. But I mean, she was willing to do this, to get pregnant, to go through the entire pregnancy, have the kid, and then give them up for adoption. Not like it didn't cross her mind to do anything differently, but as soon as she held that kid, it was real. It was this understanding that, oh, this is a child that I've been carrying. It's not just my meal ticket. And we saw that with her when she's talking to the lawyer and says, her name is Lily. Mm-hmm. And for me, I see Red's story about Liz's mother in that light. She was a problem. She was causing trouble, this, that, and everything else. It was a bad time to have a child. It was always going to be a bad time to have a child. She was going to get in the way. And then the moment that Katerina had her, the straight
explanation. Yeah, there is just something in the way that the lines are written that I went back, because it didn't occur to me until I started seeing that there were certain things between this Katerina and Liz that honestly sounded very much like they could be related. And I was seeing not much of the Dom's daughter that we've seen, this woman who seemed very cold and calculating, manipulative, not a person given to, take Rasvet out, because, I mean, especially after watching it again, boy.
We do know that Dom at least thinks or thought that Liz was his granddaughter. Yeah. He believes that because, I mean, he talks about it in season 3. And so, I mean, if there's a lie in there, then he was fooled as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there was only 2 people that knew about that. But there is something about this episode and all this. And we've been going about this, examining about all these women having children, forced to have children. There's a lot of parenthood in here and what it meant. That was interesting. That it started tugging at mental bells, that something is in here feels like is that. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was insanely well done and very well tied together, both with prior episodes and with this particular one.
And this is going to sound crazy, but you're used to my crazy stuff. So you remember that bizarre dress that blonde Katerina had in Orion?
With the one that looked like a carpet?
The one that looked like a carpet. She could disappear in the carpet.
Yeah, I know the one.
Just a little bit of makeup on the face, and she was as good as gone. It was like an invisibility cloak. Well, did you remember the dress that the Kendra, the last prostitute that had been approached, but she had not? They were just waiting. He had the semen, and they haven't done the whole thing. Well, she had a similar dress. And I've been having this weird things and was rewatching, and I look at that dress, and it's like it's high neck, he has long sleeves, and the pattern are like, whoa, you want to disappear in a rug or what? Stitch Fix, please fix me. And that's what started me thinking, like, why would they use a dress so similar for two characters? Two women who were, one that was willing to have a child in order to get some money, and the other one who told Red, I'm done with men controlling my life, who says, I miss having children around, but then there's no children in her life. It just seems like there is a little weird things going on. And something in that arena is in the picture.
Yeah. I think time will tell on that. And you may be right. Who knows? But as of right now, I'm not convinced.
I know. You're starting going over the rabbit hole and taking a peek inside. Yeah.
I did with Carlarina. I took a peek into your rabbit hole for Carlarina. It's a fascinating theory. I will give you that. And there were definitely little things that you're just like, well, that's odd. Like, why is that happening? Why is that parallel being drawn?
There you go. That's how you approach the rabbit hole. You take a peek inside.
And then you fall down to Wonderland.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, let's get into the characters. You want to start with Liz? She had some fascinating...
You want to do Liz and then do Red and Dembe first? And Amen.
Okay, let's jump into Red then. So Red had such a fascinating... I always love when he brings his cleaners in. And so I'm blanking on her name, but I really like that duo. Mm-hmm. And curious about the partial parent, because, you know, that was obviously stated for some of the curiosity. But what about Red collapsing there at the end?
Well, we've been hearing, the interesting thing is this time we got a little more clues. We had him coughing before. So this brought me right back to the apothecary that got him into this lung thing where his lungs couldn't function. And I think that if you will remember correctly, the doctor that attended him said, you know, he seems to be recuperating, but we would not know the long-term effects of this because it was targeted for him. Yeah. And so that makes sense that if something did damage him, he would have gone into a cure with Stark that didn't work, and now he's starting to have health issues. And that was a horrific poisoning, and I think that even if Kate thought that he might survive, I think she probably arranged for him to have serious side effects that would take him out eventually. I don't think that Kate was a woman not to have a belt and suspenders, and then maybe some other suspenders and maybe just a piece of rope.
You don't piss off the woman that not only knows where all the bodies are buried, but has put a lot of them there herself, and knows how it's done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good possibility. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Absolutely right about what the doctor said. It would make sense. Now, I remember in season 3 when Red got the painting, we assume from Katarina, has always been the long-standing assumption there.
I think it was Rostov who sent it.
Was it?
Yeah, because the woman arranged, but remember there was the woman, Odette, that was her girlfriend. The one
You're
that,
right.
I don't know why he was so pissed. I mean, I never understood. Well, Katarina left a wreckage in.
She did.
Her wake.
She just chaos followed her. But there's another person that fully believed that Liz is Masha, Lottie's cat's daughter, and so that might be a little more difficult considering she lived with him. And
No. I'm not saying that she didn't live as Masha. She definitely lived as Masha. I'm just saying she wasn't born as Masha.
I know, but Kirk thought Masha/Liz was his biological daughter.
Yeah.
And so that'd be a little harder to fake, considering Katerina, Masha, and Konstantin all lived together.
Why?
So you would assume that the whole pregnancy...
Change baby. Remember, my theory is Carlarina, so there's an exchange of babies. The real Masha is Jennifer, brought to live in the safety of the United States, not as the daughter of a spy, with Liz is taken on by Katerina in the more dangerous position of being Masha Rostova.
Ah, okay.
With no possibilities that she would ever be used for a bone marrow, because she would never be a donor, because she's basically not related.
Yeah. Okay. I see where your connection is there.
It was really interesting to see that they finally began to connect those dots of that disease and what is being happening. What did you think of that entire story with the supposed that ended up taking like the refugees, and they were supposed to be extremists, and they were just humanitarians, and they were smuggling people inside?
I thought it was actually done really well, because it's obviously a very delicate situation, because there's no question that it's incredibly difficult to screen people out of certain parts of the country, but it's also no question that there are so many good, decent people that are just trying to get out and survive.
There was a bunch of women terrified.
Yeah, I thought it was handled very well, very respectfully, and I
love that Red brought them to a hotel and give them food.
Yeah, yeah. And so of course he did, and that was a very Red thing to do, to help them out and to get them there.
And to threaten people, and it's not about, no, I'm not gonna kill you.
Oh,
I'm just gonna spoil your beef.
Can I just make the comment, because I had heard about Wagyu beef for the longest time, how amazing it was, and this and that and everything else. And for those that don't know anything about it, it is as expensive as Red was talking about. It's just off the charts. It's when you go to these nice restaurants, they're like, okay, well, it's this exorbitant amount of money per ounce, but you have a very high limit for how few ounces you can have. I could not buy it. Would not, what have you. I went out with my company a while back, and we went to a sushi place, and they had Wagyu sliders. One of my bosses ordered them, and oh my gosh, Wagyu is everything they say it is. It's so good.
Better not to taste it, folks, or it will spoil you.
Oh, I'm one of those people that I have my limit. I'm like, there's only so much I'm willing to pay for this, because I can get very tasty meat that is not, it may not taste like Wagyu, but it also won't break my bank and be gone in 10 minutes, But, hey, when your bosses are paying, more power to them.
And I'm sure that Red just bought the entire thing for him.
Oh, I could totally see him doing that. Yeah. And it's not any sweat off of him. I mean, he's got the money to do it.
Well, he started the same thing in the Kilgannon Corporation, and this somehow reminded me a little bit of that. And so it's funny how we're bringing themes that connect both, because in Floriana Campo we had people that were also smuggled, this time against their will. In the Kilgannon we had people who were desperate, trying to emigrate from a dangerous situation or a bad situation. And in here we have the same thing, but attached to a more
humane way of doing it.
Yeah, and also because we're going into the Floriana Campo of women using women to obtain something, or to gain money out of that. So it's interesting when you start connecting threads.
I really liked, and we've talked about it before on the podcast, how well Blacklist approaches that sleight of hand. And I like that this writer set it up, because we know Dembe. We've known Dembe since season 1. He's not going to be, while he is totally willing to act in violent manners, it has to be for good. Mm-hmm. His mosque is not going to be the type that would be involved in extremism. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that character well enough to know that he would not put himself in that place. And so, therefore, if he trusts his imam, as the audience, we tend to trust along with him. Mm-hmm. And I found myself watching it, and the way that the writer set it up and moved the pieces around, it's like, could Dembe be wrong? Like, this guy seems like such a classy human being. Mm-hmm. Like, could he be wrong? Could they all be that wrong? I mean, you had the bit at the beginning where, oh, he knows about the task force. Does he now?
Yeah.
And then it's like, why? Yeah. And then to have that, they could have gone that route, but I really enjoyed that. And it also set Blonde Cat up one more level of how despicable do you have to be to go after a religious leader. The moment that you saw those shoes,
you know who she was.
Oh, you knew who it was as soon as it was like, oh, it's someone after me.
Yeah. But the shoes were like, I loved it. I love when they do those takes of shoes. You know the other character they did this with? Jennifer. When she brought the bones, the first thing you saw were the shoes.
But I really, as worried as I am for the guy.
It's not ending well.
I think I saw him in promos. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't.
No, because what she's going to do is exchange him for Dembe, because Dembe will not let an innocent person suffer because of this connection. And then she's going to do the same thing to Dembe that Red was going to do to Patrick. So I just hope that Dembe survives it.
Oh, I think there would be riots. I mean, James has already stood up for Hisham once. Hopefully it would happen again. I hope we don't lose him.
But all characters can die.
I know. But so it was, I say it was nice in a way that it just paints her in that horrible light. It's, who goes after an innocent religious leader? I mean, there are plenty of bad religious leaders out there, but obviously this guy was painted as a good, decent human being that's just doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so that
this is not like in Rosa and Denisov where the priest was not a priest.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, yeah. And so once we've established, okay, the imam's cool, he is not a terrorist, he is not supporting terrorism in any way, shape, or form. He wasn't even aware that they were smuggling people in and trying to rescue them. That wasn't even on his radar, but that's the person that Blonde Cat is going to try to use to twist the leverage there, which makes her just so much worse, I think. Mm-hmm. It just adds to that, which from, a vantage point that is not the man sitting in the chair right now, that's fantastic. I love seeing how those pieces are being put into place. Mm-hmm.
And this is very similar to what Solomon did, which was to go after Dembe's granddaughter in order to get Dembe to surrender in order to find Red. This is exactly the same thing. She wants information, and probably she might know that Dembe knows a lot. So it might not be even to get Red, but it might be to see if she can extract the information about Ilya.
Yeah.
From Red.
Yeah, I will say that some of the conversations, and we can go into it a little deeper when we get to Liz, but some of the conversations that were being had in this episode leave me a little less confident that she's questioning Blonde Cat. As I've been fairly confident that she's playing the board and trying to find out who she is rather than just blindly trusting her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's possible Liz was saying certain things to the people that need to hear them, but I'm less confident than I was before.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I truly enjoy is what I think is Red masterfully creating a shiny object for Liz to chase. Because we didn't hear anything about any Sikorsky archive, did you?
I was going to ask you. I have in my notes, I have very limited notes today, but one thing I do have is with the Sikorsky archive, if we think it's real. Because, like you just said, we've heard it from no one else. There's no way to authenticate it through another source on the show. This is the first thing she said about it, and she's already been handing Liz incorrect intel. Yeah. But since we're talking about the PI, I would like to note a lovely parallel that made me insanely happy when my brain connected it.
Okay. I have not, so I'm all ears.
Do you remember in season 2, it was when Tom and Liz were looking for Katerina. They had the photo when they were searching for her, and Tom was helping out of his warehouse and trying to get her to, run away on the boat. He tells Liz that the tell that they can look for in people that Red has gotten to is their silence. Mm-hmm.
True.
It's like he's asking for their firstborn when he says his name. That is the tell. And we had that it wasn't exact wording, but when Liz slipped into the car, she said, "He got to you." And it was just such a nice callback to that Red's tell, you can never wipe it out because people are so terrified of him that they either clam down all the way or they hand false intel. Like, there's something there. And so this woman was a whole lot better than a lot of people are. Most people just shut their mouth and go, "Can't help you." But she obviously fed her false intel at the beginning of the episode. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. I think that the Sikorsky archives could very easily be false as well.
Well, he did it already when he presented that information about the girl that came from the woods in Thomas More. Was it Thomas More? Nicholas Moore? No. What was the name of that episode?
I think it might have been Nicholas
Moore. The one where the girl that in the sect that they were in the woods and they were burning the father alive and they were going to burn the girl alive too. I think it was Nicholas T. Moore.
Yeah,
Nicholas T. Moore, and that was exactly what Red did. Presented him MacGuffin to make sure that Liz, shiny object. Oh, yes, no, I don't want you to look at that. And Liz just went for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's because, she is smart. She does follow trails down. And so it's Red playing smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. And instead of just butting heads with her nonstop over this, he's going to give her something to chase. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with it, but from his point of view, wanting to continue down this path, it makes sense.
After seeing the things Liz is doing, betraying everybody, I used to think that Red should have really just told Liz the stuff. Now I'm like, I'm with you. All right. If you tell her, she's going to go and bulldoze her way over there, endanger everybody else, and then probably betrayed her.
So I actually had this conversation with someone. I finally figured out how to phrase it. We saw with Tom because obviously Tom betrayed her first season, big issue. She didn't start to really even go down the path of trust until he was willing to be honest with her and prove continuously that he would continue being honest with her. And so as we got into season 3, season 4, even season 5, when she found out that he was chasing down the bones after he died, she was a lot more willing to forgive those secrets kept in a limited fashion than she would have been otherwise, because she knew overall he had chosen to be honest, that it was a limited secret. It wasn't a straight lie. I believe she would take the same route with Red if he had not set a precedent of just continuously over and over and over treating her like a small child, not letting her in. If he were to open up about, and I understand that there's a big secret in there that he may not feel like he can tell her for whatever reason. He doesn't feel like it. But if he were to give her something on many other things and leave that, he would have more leverage to say, okay, I've given you all this. It's not that you pulled it out like a tooth. I gave it to you because I respect you, because you and I are in this together. We're a team. I'm not just manipulating you. I have the secret. I need you to trust me that you can't know it. She might be more willing to do that. But instead, he keeps everything from her, and the only way he actually releases any information at all is when she tracks it down and forces the situation, and it blows up in both of their faces.
Yeah, and yes, that is generally true. The only thing that I have to say about that is that the task force has not kept any information from Liz, and she has betrayed them over and over and over. I mean, from the simple things about the faking her death to the points where she swore Ressler to secrecy and then proceeded to tell Red that Ressler knew. So at any possible time that Liz can throw somebody under the bus in order to chase what she considers to be the truth for somebody who's related to her biologically, she just does it. So I used to think like you. Now I'm thinking, I have a feeling I understand why Red is doing this, because let's say that Liz goes and finds her mother and finds out that her mother is not really her biological mother. I think Liz will just throw her under the bus completely. I think that Liz is in many ways, she's still that child traumatized by being abandoned and not understanding much. But she also has some very dark impulses, far darker than Red ever had. So I began to examine the situation in a little different fashion. I used to play that, like Red should have just told her. Now I'm like, I'm not sure that is true. She is just a bull in a china shop. She would just go and destroy whatever she needs to destroy in order to get to a truth. But the other thing that she trusted Tom with is after she kept him in a boat and shot him 3 times in the stomach and broke his thumb. So
he hadn't earned that trust back, though. He had, until after that, honestly, until he was willing to tell her that the passports came from Reddington, until he opened up about that and was honest with her, he hadn't come back to even being anywhere close to earning her trust.
But at least we were on speaking terms. To be on speaking terms, you have to get shot and then kept in a boat and have your thumb broken.
Well,
that's the way she functions. And
you also have to, come back from Germany and be willing to go to prison for life.
Yeah. But, as opposed to I'm going to throw Red in prison for life, and life will not be very long.
Oh, when he first got taken off, I did a gift set. It said, "Don't piss don't piss Liz off. You'll end up in chains somehow, some way."
Mm-hmm. And probably not surviving very long. Yeah, she's dangerous. She's definitely dangerous. And I'm concerned about Cooper, because Cooper seems to, he warns her, but I don't know. I think that she's going a very, very dangerous path.
Oh, definitely. Definitely down a dangerous path.
And she's not going to stop looking for Ilya.
Oh, no. I agree with you 100%.
Now, what do you think Ressler will do with that information?
I don't know. I think he's about to get really distracted.
Oh, yeah.
So he may not do a whole lot of anything with it because he has more pressing matters. Apparently there's something buried that he does not want found.
Yeah, a little secret buried. So you think they're going to totally, because I'm getting more confident now that, let's say that we're totally wrong and Tom is not alive. If they keep bringing Ressler into the gray, they're about to make him into black. I mean, forget about gray. Do you think it's a possibility that now he's gray enough to be with her, or he's still with
well, I don't, maybe couple 3-4 weeks ago, before Tom started getting mentioned again and again and again, when that first started and Red said, basically you need to, start opening up in your life, making room for, at the time I was like, well, it could be one of a couple things. They're either going to revisit Tom's story in some way, shape, or form, or they're preparing us for a new love interest, whether that's Ressler, whether that's someone entirely new, that they were preparing us for that. And then the following episodes where she was mentioning Tom, if they were preparing us, then they did a horrifying job, because they've shown that she hasn't moved on, that she has no interest in moving on, and that she still loves him. And so that's not the way you prepare for someone new. I think that's more why I personally don't think Keenler's on our horizon than anything else. If Tom's alive or not, that really doesn't even
from
fit into
the
my
character's
equation
perspective.
Yeah. Now, is he gray enough for it? Maybe.
Will he survive? That's my question.
Yeah.
Will he survive in Red's world?
Oh yeah, I think he's getting there, and so I think that he has a lot better shot than he did in earlier seasons of surviving that. Oh, absolutely, just ripped to
Now,
shreds.
you think that they're going to take him right out of that Boy Scout, that they're going to show us that he became a Boy Scout because of the things that he had done, or was the brother who did and he just covered it up?
I'm torn on that. I think it'd be very interesting if maybe he walked into the situation and ended up either accidentally killing somebody or,
I bet that's dummy marking in there.
I bet so too. Yeah, there's a really good chance. Or the people that actually killed us the drug dealers, because it wasn't Tommy Markin that pulled the trigger. He was just the one that screwed him over. And so it could be that he was involved. It could be he was in the cover-up. It could be that he straight up killed the guy. I don't know, but I do think it would be very fascinating to see that he has this dark secret in his past, and that he went so far in the other direction to try to convince himself he was worthy.
Whitewash his...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just cover it up, basically in his own mind make amends for it, self-flagellation sort of thing.
It is interesting because we always looked at the task force, and we have talked about this in the program, and there's always a sense that Red kind of picked them up, each one of them. Cooper, he had a dark secret with Cooper. Aram, he was a hacker and he was picked up by NSA. Well, Samar was definitely in the gray and had quite a bit of secrets on her own. It seems like Ressler was the exception, and it seems that may not be the case.
If it's something really dark, I don't think Red knew about it. I don't think that was on Red's radar, because just the way he approached him in season 1, part of it was probably because, Ressler took a pot shot at him and tried to kill him. But I don't think there was a lot of respect for him in season 1. I think a lot of that was a lack of respect that Red had for him and his ability to function. And I think that we have seen, as Ressler's proven himself in the task force, being able to bend his very strict rule book and dig into the gray.
Which might not be that straight anymore.
Yeah, but Red, as Red's watched him do this, I think the respect for Ressler has grown, and he's become much more fond of him than he used to be. I mean, he watched him at the whole Mako Tanita thing. I mean, Ressler was about ready to shoot his friend because he blamed him for Audrey's death. And then instead of shooting him, he hands him a sword and says, "Senpuku, go."
Yep.
Which is a brutal way to go.
Well, can't say I disagree with the manner of execution. He just knew what was coming to him in prison, and that was a better way to go.
But the fact that Ressler encouraged him to do that shows that there was a darkness in there that when the right buttons were pushed, and we saw it again. I mean, he's been willing to, push the lines with, perps that are in there, where he, I guess it's technically torture, where they're hurt and he's, pulling a mirror and, pushing at broken bones, that sort of thing. We've seen him do that. We have seen that there are certain buttons that can be pushed so that Ressler goes down a darker path. And as he's in the task force, as he's around Red, more and more he's leaned into the gray. Only way to survive.
And there's, because he named the brother Trouble, so I suspect it was more the brother that was in there, but he certainly covered it up.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be some way.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by the episode. Looking forward to it, really.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really excited. I think there's one more after it, which will be our finale. And that's one that they've sort of pieced together. Yes,
I'm very excited about that one because that probably means that they've got into a lot of those footage. Because, remember, they're shooting with 3 cameras at all times, and they shoot for 10 days for one episode. That's a lot of episodes of hours and hours of filming, and they said that they've been filming the ending since the beginning. So we know that in all those things that we have seen, those conversations that seem to start out of nowhere, that we just get in there in the halfway conversation, we know that there's parts of that we haven't seen. We know, for example, that fire sequence that we just saw, a very confused one. We know that there is one of those that is filmed perfectly clear, and we will eventually know what happened. Yep. So all of those things have happened. Conversations with Dom, conversation with they've been filming forever this ending. So if they just dug a little bit into that trove and give us a few answers, I'm going to be very excited for that one. Plus, I think that Dom requires a lovely send-off.
Oh, so much. And I would imagine that the team running this agrees. He's going to be missed.
Yeah, and they're going to have no choice but to kill Dom unless they put him forever in a coma and leave it at that.
Yeah, I imagine they'll kill the character off. It doesn't make sense not to at this point.
Except that they cannot film a funeral or anything. So they might not do that until they can film it.
Well, yeah. That it may happen next season, but I do think that they will. Unless they've just got enough footage there to keep him alive till the end. That'd be crazy.
They could do flashbacks.
Yeah.
They could do flashbacks.
Who knows? I have no idea how much footage they have, but I will say that after this is all done and our secrets have been revealed and all of that, at the close of the Blacklist, I would be willing to pay money to see undoctored footage. Just like all the cutting room.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It would be, especially because of all these things that, that you get into scenes and you say, like, it feels like we're just missing. Like Sam, for example. When we first see him, he's sitting all the way by the window. Sam wakes up. He says, "It's good to see you." And Sam looks scared. Next time we come back into the scene, Red is sitting by Sam and they've been talking and they're laughing and they're talking about a woman. So you know that we're missing an entire scene in there.
Yeah.
And we know that those somewhere in there those scenes have been filmed.
I don't know if they've been filmed. I mean, a lot of script writing is making sure, because you've got such a limited amount of time, especially for TV.
They said that they've been filming the ending since the beginning. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious.
It will be very hard for a series that's been going on for 7 years if they had to now go back and try to recreate the same things with actors that look now 7 years older.
That's true.
So I think that what they've done is they've been filming those scenes, and they probably have like 5 or 7 versions of a scene. For example, they're not gonna. Let's talk about episodes like the fire, like the fire recall that Liz undergoes. They're not going to recreate that. That was expensive. You need the same child. It's going to be phenomenally expensive and difficult to do. They're not going to recreate Rasvet. They're not going to recreate any of those. So basically, they just probably filmed everything, and then they just pick and choose which scenes, or if they're going to obscure the scene so you don't see clearly. You see like a memory is all very fussy, and it has like double. The camera work it's kind of bizarre. So. You know that they're doing that, and so I'm really excited for this episode. The coronavirus have to have a nice silver lining somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll be happy that's mine. It's too bad that it comes with so much death and misery and loss of jobs. But if we get one good thing out of it, I'll be happy that we get a little bit of those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's negating the horrible effects of it to say, hey, there is one good thing that comes out of it. You can still focus on the positive without downplaying the negative. That's what
I'm doing. I'm trying to keep positive, and I'm excited. This was a phenomenal episode. Definitely Kathy Brooks is one writer I'm going to be very excited to see more work about them. It has continued a trend on this episode too of bringing cases that were precious to Liz, and then I was surprised to see how many of them they are over the years. We started with the stew maker. The stew maker was a case that was Liz, and then when Red realized that there was no body and it smelled like chemicals, it's like, oh, so that's a stew maker, and I'm interested. So that was Hector Lorca that got in jail because of Liz profiling. We got the Good Samaritan killer. That was an old case from Liz. We got the deer hunter. That's another one. She's lecturing because she had a profile and Red said it was wrong. And that's when they discover from the other guy that it was a copycat. We got the forecaster. That is a case that goes to Liz directly because the mother felt that Liz will be able to understand, have not been believed, and being framed for something. We have the debt collector. That was Tyson Pryor, was also a case of Liz, and that's a case Red uses to hire the debt collector, so he's credible. The Capricorn killer is another one of Liz's cases because it features the Sandman. That's the one that took the kids with the pink high tops. That had those lovely things going on with her being abducted and Tom being abducted from the beach and during the night, and Nicholas Timur. That's another one. She brought the case up, even though that was one of Red's little underhanded. He's a shiny object for you to follow. And finally, Nyle Hatcher. That's also brought by Liz So that is quite a bit of episodes that have been brought up by Liz or part of Liz's old cases.
In her own way, she's got her own mini blacklist.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good way to put it. And she's starting to collect her own people.
She is. Well, that's about all I have for this episode. It was fantastic, and
it was very and moved so quickly.
Yeah, it was very well paced.
And I like the actors all did a phenomenal episode. A phenomenal job with the episode. They were all very credible, because even the women that were, in a position somewhat unsympathetic, you're agreeing to have a child in order to do, they were still sympathetic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you could still, relate to them. So really, really, really good one.
Yep. All right. Well, you guys can listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. And you can talk to us, because we do love to hear from you. You can chat with us on Facebook, on Tumblr, and Twitter. And Tessa is on Reddit.
And until next time.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.